baseball. But when this ceremony was finished, his uncle would be dead and gone. Forever. None of his strength, none of his compassion, none of his spirit would remain. Toyo backed away, unable to meet Uncle Koji's eyes. "For my part in the samurai uprising at Ueno Park," his uncle said officially, "I, Koji Shimada, have been sentenced to die. The Emperor, in his divine graciousness, has granted me the honor of committing seppuku rather than die at the hands of his executioner. I beg those present here today to bear witness to my death." Uncle Koji bowed low, and Sotaro and Toyo bowed in return. He slowly untied the sash around his waist and loosened the kimono wrapped underneath. Pulling the stiff shirt down off his shoulders, Koji exposed his smooth, round belly. He tucked the arms of the kimono under his legs, which made him lean forward. Toyo knew this was to help his uncle pitch forward if he should pass out during the ceremony. It would make his father's job much easier. Uncle Koji closed his eyes and began the poem he had written for the occasion of his death. In the darkness after the earthquake, the flowers of Edo burn bright and fast, only to be replaced in the morning by the light of a new day. When he was finished, the samurai opened his eyes and put his hands on his stomach, almost as if he were saying goodbye to it. Then Koji took the short sword in his hands and turned the blade toward his gut. "Brother," Koji said, "please wait until I have finished my task." "Hai." Toyo's father nodded. Koji looked past Toyo then, past the little path to the shrine, past the line of trees that circled the clearing. Whether he saw something in the distance or not, Toyo didn't know, but the faraway look stayed in his uncle's eyes as he plunged the wakizashi into his belly. Blood covered his hands and his jaw locked tight, but Koji held his grip on the sword, dragging it across his stomach from left to right. Toyo fought the urge to look away. To honor his promise to bear witness, he forced himself to watch as his uncle's insides spilled onto the floor of the Shinto shrine, the body deflating like a torn rice sack. When Uncle Koji had sliced all the way across his stomach, he turned the wakizashi in the wound and pulled it diagonally up through his chest. Never flinching, his eyes remained steady and resolute. The knife reached his heart, and with the last of his strength, Uncle Koji pulled the wakizashi out and laid it by his side and fell forward on his hands and knees. Toyo's father sprang to his feet, raising the long katana blade high over his head. "Hey-ya!" Sotaro cried. He brought the blade down with blinding speed and chopped Koji's head clean off his body. The head rolled to a stop inches from Toyo, the eyes staring up at him. Toyo refused to let his father see his fear. As his father wiped the blood from the katana with a piece of paper, Toyo commanded his legs to stand. "Did you watch carefully?" his father asked. "Hai," Toyo said. "You observed precisely how it was done?" "Hai, father." "Good," Sotaro Shimada said to his son. "Soon you will do the same for me." Chapter 2. A photograph of Emperor Meiji was enshrined above the chalkboard in the ethics lecture hall. Toyo stared at the picture of the man who had sentenced his uncle to die. The emperor was a young man, younger than Uncle Koji. He sat awkwardly in a Western-style chair, with his legs dangling down, rather than a more traditional pose on a mat, with his legs tucked beneath him. He wore a modern military uniform with medals on his jacket and a braided rope on his sleeve. His hair was cut short in the European fashion, and he had a mustache on his lip and a goatee on his chin. In his hand the emperor held a sword pointed down to the ground, like a cane. Beneath the image of the emperor, the school's headmaster, Hiroji Kinoshita, stood at the lectern. He spoke at length about the school, and Toyo drifted in and out of his address. First higher school, Ichiko as we call her, is the most elite of schools, Kinoshita was saying. For the next 3 years, we will be your family. Think of us, your educators, as your father, your fellow students as brothers. You will no longer have need of your mother, or of women at all. Ichiko is your mother now. Her classrooms and dormitories your world. The life you had is over. A new one begins today. I hope this new one ends soon, Futoshi whispered. I have to pee. Toyo glanced at his friend. Like Toyo and the other 900 or so boys standing at attention in the room, Futoshi wore the black uniform of Ichiko. It was a strange sight after seeing Futoshi in the familiar middle school uniform they had worn for so long, like they didn't yet belong here. Hi, me too, Toyo whispered back. Are you going to go out for the Besuboru team this afternoon? Futoshi asked. Hi, Toyo answered. I just hope they don't already have a shortstop. Will you do judo? Of course, Futoshi told him. I'm the best. Toyo smiled. Futoshi always thought he was the best at everything. He and Toyo were the only students from their middle school to pass the first higher entrance exam. 2 others had made it into 3rd higher, and one was starting 4th higher next week. The rest would attend business or vocational schools. Your uniforms, Kinoshita said, drawing Toyo's attention, mark you immediately as Japan's finest. Your black jacket and cap are symbols of excellence. You are to wear them with pride from the moment you rise in the morning until the moment your head touches your bedroll at night. You first years will have noticed the brass badge on the front of your cap with an imprint of an oak and olive leaf. The oak leaf signifies Bu, the ancient way of the warrior. The olive leaf symbolizes Bun, the new way of scholarship and letters. Together they represent the modern Japan, the place where the old and the new become one, where the powerful and the thoughtful combine to become even stronger. The powerful and the thoughtful, Toyo echoed silently. The warrior and the scholar. If there was a better description of his father and his uncle, Toyo couldn't think of one. Uncle Koji had always been the fighter of the family, the first to stand up for what he believed with the steel of his blade and the courage in his heart. Sotaro was the scholar of the family. His weapons were his brush and his brain, and he wielded them to argue eloquently in papers, essays, and articles. Toyo put a hand to the symbol on his cap, the oak and the olive leaves. Koji and Sotaro. He looked again at the portrait of the emperor above Kinoshita's head. Had Meiji written the death order himself, or had some bureaucrat done it for him? Perhaps Koji had been nothing more than a single sheaf in a pile of papers stacked neatly on the emperor's new Western-style desk. For refusing to give up his swords, signed in pen and ink, but unread. What was it like? Futoshi whispered. Toyo blinked. For a moment, Toyo thought his friend had been reading his mind, but he knew Futoshi must have been wanting to ask him about it all day. It was awful, Toyo said quietly. Awful and beautiful. Beautiful? Futoshi asked. I don't know. Noble somehow. Perfect. Until... Toyo fell silent. Koji was dead, and for what? Because the emperor had decided there should be no more samurai, and Koji could not give up being a samurai? Do you know what the flowers of Edo are? Toyo asked, remembering his uncle's death poem. Futoshi frowned. He shook his head. Edo is the old name for Tokyo.